Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome all to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 6, verse 177. We will continue from Mukam Karoti Vachalam, Pangum Langhayate Girim, Yat Kripatam Ham Vande, Shri Gurum Dinatarinam, Parmananda Madhavam, Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram, Hari Om Tat Sat. Bhaṭṭācārya निग्रहादि अनेक उठाइला सब खंडी प्रभु निज मत से स्थापिला. The Bhaṭṭācārya presented various types of false arguments with pseudo-logic and tried to defeat his opponent in many ways. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refuted all these arguments and established his own conviction. Purport: the word vitanda indicates that a debater, not touching the main point or establishing his own point, simply tries to refute the other person's argument. When one does not touch the direct meaning but tries to divert attention by misinterpretation, he engages in chala. The word nigraha also means always trying to refute the arguments of the other party. Verse 178, Bhagwan Sambandha Bhakti Abhideya Haya Prema Prayojana Vede Tina Vastu Kaya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the central point of all relationships. Acting in devotional service to Him is one's real occupation, and the attainment of love of Godhead is the ultimate goal of love. These three subjects matters are described in the Vedic literature. Purport: in the Bhagavad-Gita 15:15, Lord Krishna confirms this statement, Vedescha sarver aham eva vedyaha. The actual purpose in reading the Vedas is to learn how to become a devotee of the Supreme Lord. The Lord Himself advises, Man mana bhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. This is from Bhagavad-Gita 9.34. Therefore, after studying the Vedas, one must then execute devotional service by thinking always of the Supreme Lord, Man mana, becoming His devotee, worshipping Him, and always offering Him obeisances. This is called Vishnu Aradhana, and it is the supreme occupational duty of all human beings. It is properly discharged in the Varnashram Dharma system, which divides society into Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas, and excuse me, and Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. This is the whole scheme of Vedic civilization. However, this institution is very difficult to establish in this age. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises that we not worry about the Vedic system of Varnashram Dharma. Rather, we should take directly to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and simply hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead from pure devotees. This is the process recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and this is the purpose for studying the Vedas. Verse 179, Aar ye kichu kahe sakala I kalpana swatah pramana veda vakye kalpena lakshana. If one tries to explain the Vedic literature in a different way, he is indulging in imagination. Any interpretation of the self-evident Vedic version is simply imaginary. Purport: when a conditioned soul is purified, he is called a devotee. A devotee has a relationship only with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his only occupational duty is to execute devotional service to satisfy the Lord. This service is rendered through the Lord's representative, the spiritual master. Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tatha gurau. When the devotee executes devotional service properly, he attains the highest perfection of life. Love of Godhead, Sārvabhauma paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje. The ultimate goal of understanding the Vedas is to be elevated to the platform of rendering loving service to the Lord. The Mayavadi philosophers, however, consider the central point of relationship to be the impersonal Brahman, the function of the living entity to be acquisition of knowledge of Brahman, resulting in detachment from the material activity. And the ultimate goal of life to be liberation or merging into the existence of the Supreme. All of this, however, is simply due to the imagination of the conditioned soul. It simply opposes him to material activities. One should always remember that all Vedic literatures are self-evident. No one is allowed to interpret the Vedic verses. If one does so, he indulges in imagination, and that has no value. Verse 180. Acharyera dosha nahi, Ishwara agya haila, ataiva kalpana kari nastik shastra kaila. Actually, there is no fault on the part of Shankaracharya. He simply carried out the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He had to imagine some kind of interpretation, and therefore he presented a kind of Vedic literature that is full of atheism. Verse 181. Swagamehe kalpitaistvam cha janan mad vimukhan kuru mam cha gopaya yena syat srishtir eshotarottara. Addressing Lord Shiva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, please take the general populace averse to me. Please make the general populace averse to me by imagining your own interpretation of the Vedas. Also cover me in such a way that people will take more interest in advancing material civilization just to propagate a population bereft of spiritual knowledge. Purport, this is the quotation from Padma Puran Uttarakhanda 62.31, verse 182. Maya vadam asach shastram prachannam bodham uchyate Mayeva vihitam devi kalau brahmana murtina. Lord Shiva informed Goddess Durga, the superintendent of the material world, in the age of Kali, I take the form of Brahman and explain the Vedas through false scriptures in an atheistic way similar to Buddhist philosophy. Purport, the word Brahmana Murtina in this verse refers to the founder of Mayavad philosophy, Shankaracharya, who was born in the Malabar district of southern India. Mayavad philosophy states that the Supreme Lord, the living entities, and the cosmic manifestation are all transformations of illusory energy. To support this atheistic theory, the Mayavadis cite the false scriptures which make people bereft of transcendental knowledge and addicted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. This verse is a quotation from Padma Puran Uttarakhand 25.7. Verse 183. Shuni Bhaṭṭācārya haila parama vismita mukhe na nihsare vani haila stambhita. Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya became very much astonished upon hearing this. He became stunned and said nothing. Verse 184. Prabhu kahe Bhaṭṭācārya na kar vismay bhagwane bhakti param purusharth hai. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told him, do not be astonished. Actually, devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest perfection of human activity. Verse 185. Atmaram prayanta kare Ishwara bhajan aiche achintya bhagwanera guna gan. Guna. Even after the self-satisfied sages perform devotional service to the Supreme Lord, such are the transcendental qualities of the Lord. They are full of inconceivable spiritual potency. Verse 186. Atmarabas chamunayo nigrantha api urukrame kurvanti ahetukim bhaktim itham bhuta guno hari. Those who are self-satisfied and unattracted by external material desires are also attracted to the loving service of Sri Krishna, whose qualities are transcendental and whose activities are wonderful. Hari, the personality of Godhead, is called Krishna because he has such transcendentally attractive features. Purport: this is the famous Atmanam verse from the Bhagavatam 1.7.10. Verse 187. Shuni Bhaṭṭācārya kahe shuna mahashay e shlokera artha shunite vansha haya. After hearing the Atmanam verse, Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya addressed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "My dear sir, please explain this verse. I have a great desire to hear your explanation of it." Verse 188. Prabhu kahe tumi ki artha kara taha age shuni pache ami kariba artha yeba kichu chani. The Lord replied, "First let me hear your explanation. After that I shall try to explain what little I know." Verse 189. Shuni Bhaṭṭācārya shloka karila vyakhyan tarka shastra mat uttaya vivid vidhan. Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya then began to explain the Atmanam verse, and according to the principles of logic he put forward various propositions. Verse 190. Navveda arth kaila shastra mat lena shuni prabhu kahe kichu ishat hasiya. The Bhaṭṭācārya explained the Atmanam verse in 9 different ways on the basis of scripture. After hearing his explanation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, smiling a little, began to speak. Purport: the Atmanam verse was discussed at Naimisharanya at a meeting of many great sages headed by Shaunak Rishi. They questioned Srila Sutta Goswami, who presided at the meeting, about why Srila Shukadev Goswami, a Paramhans already in the transcendental position, was attracted to a discussion of the qualities of Krishna. In other words, they wanted to know why Sri Shukadev Goswami engaged in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Verse 191. Bhaṭṭācārya jani tumi sakshat brihaspati shastra vyakhya karite aichi karo nahi shakti. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "My dear Bhaṭṭācārya, you are exactly like Brihaspati, the priest of the heavenly kingdom. Indeed, no one within this world has the power to explain the scriptures in such a way." Verse 192. Kintu tumi artha kaila panditya pratibhaya iha va e shlokera ache aro abhipray. My dear Bhaṭṭācārya, you have certainly explained this verse by the prowess of your vast learning, but you should know that besides this scholarly explanation, there is another purport to this verse. Verse 193. Bhaṭṭācārya prarthanate prabhu vyakhya kaila tandra nav artha madhye ekana chochunila. Upon the request of Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to explain the verse without touching upon the 9 explanations given by the Bhaṭṭācārya. Verse 194. Atma Ramas Chashloke Ekadasha Padahaya Prithak Prithak Kaila Padera Artha Nischay. There are 11 words in the Atmanam verse, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained each word one after the other. Purport: the words in the Atmanam verse are Atmaramaha Cha Munayaha Nirgranthaha Api Urukrame Kuruvanti Ahetukum Bhaktim Itam Bhuta Gunaha and Harihe. Verse 195. Tattat Pada Pradhanye Atmaram Milana Ashtadasha Artha Kaila Abhipraya Lena. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took each word specifically and combined it with the word Atmaram. He thus explained the word Atmaram in 18 different ways. Verse 196. Bhagwan Tandra Shakti Tandra Guna Gana Achinte Prabhava Tinera Nayaya Kathana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, His different potencies and His transcendental qualities all have inconceivable prowess. It is not possible to explain them fully. Verse 197. Anya yata sadhya sadhana kari achadana etine hare siddhas sadhakera mana. These three items attract the mind of a perfect student engaged in spiritual activities and overcome all other processes of spiritual activity. Purport. Spiritual activities other than Bhakti Yoga are divided into three categories: speculative activity conducted by the Jnana Sampradaya or the learned scholars, fruitive activity conducted by the general populace according to Vedic regulations, and the activities of transcendentalists not engaged in devotional service. There are many different branches of these categories, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by His inconceivable potencies and transcendental qualities, attracts the mind of the student engaged in the activities of karma, jnana, yoga, and so forth. The Supreme Lord is full of inconceivable potencies which are related to His person, His energies, and His transcendental qualities. All of these are very attractive to the serious student. Consequently, the Lord is known as Krishna, the all-attractive one. Verse 198. Sanakadi Shukadev Tahate Pramana Aimata Nana Artha Karena Vyakhyan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained the meaning of the verse by giving evidence concerning Shukadev Goswami and the four rishis Sanak, Sanat Kumar, Sanatan, and Sanandan. Thus the Lord gave various meanings and explanations. Purport. That Krishna is all attractive is verified by the activities of the four rishis and the Shukadev Goswami. All of them were liberated persons, yet they were attracted by the qualities and pastimes of the Lord. It is therefore said, Mukta api lilaya vigraham kritva bhagwantam bhajante. Even liberated persons are attracted by the pastimes of Lord Krishna and thus engage in devotional service. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 24.112. From the very beginning of their life, Shukadev Goswami and the four Kumars, known as Chatusana, were liberated and self-realized on the Brahman platform. Nonetheless, they were attracted by the qualities of Krishna and they engaged in his service. The four Kumars were attracted by the aroma of the flowers offered at the lotus feet of Krishna, and in this way they became devotees. Shukadev Goswami heard Srimad Bhagavatam by the mercy of his father Vyasadev, and he was consequently attracted to Krishna and became a great devotee. The conclusion is that the transcendental bliss experienced in the service of the Lord must be superior to the Brahmananda, the bliss derived from the realizing the impersonal Brahman. Verse 199. Shuni Bhaṭṭācārya mane haila chamatkar prabhu ke Krishna jani kare apana dikkar. Upon hearing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's explanation of the Atmanam verse, Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya was struck with wonder. He then understood Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be Krishna in person, and he thus condemned himself in the following words. Verse 200. Inhota sakshat Krishna muni na janiya maha aparadha kainu gavit haiya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is certainly Lord Krishna himself. Because I could not understand him and was very proud of my own learning, I have committed many offences. Verse 201. Atmaninda kari laila prabhura sharana kripa kari bare tabe prabhura haila mana. When Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya renounced himself as an offender and took shelter of the Lord desired to show him mercy. Verse 203. Dekhaila tanre age chatur bhuja rupa pache shyama vamshi mukha swakiya swarupa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first showed him the four-handed form and then appeared before him in the original form of Krishna with a blackish complexion and a flute to his lips. Verse 204. देखी सार्वभौम दंडवत करी पदी पुनः उठी स्तुति करे दुई करा युधि. When Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya saw the form of Lord Krishna manifested in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he immediately fell down flat to offer him obeisances. Then he stood up with folded hands, began to offer prayers. Verse 205. Prabhura Kripaya Tandra Sfurila Sabadatva Nama Prema Dana Adi Varnena Mahatva. By the mercy of the Lord, all the truths were revealed to Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, and he could understand the importance of chanting of the holy name and distributing love of Godhead everywhere. Verse 206. Shatya shloka kaila eka danda na yaite brihaspati etaiche shloka na pare karite. Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya composed 100 verses in a very short time. Indeed, not even Brihaspati, the priest of the heavenly planets, could compose verses as quickly. The name of the book is of 100 beautiful verses composed by Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya is Sushloka Sataka. Shuddhi Sukhe, now verse number 207. Shuddhi Sukhe Prabhu Tandre Kaila Alingana Bhaṭṭācārya Prema Veshe Haila Achetana. After hearing the 100 verses, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu happily embraced Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, who was immediately overwhelmed in ecstatic love of Godhead and fell unconscious. Verse 208. Ashostamba Pulak Sweda Kampa Tharahari Nache Gaye Kande Pade Prabhu Pada Dhari. Out of ecstatic love of God, the Bhattacharya shed tears and his body was stunned. He exhibited an ecstatic mood and he perspired, shook and trembled. He sometimes danced, sometimes chanted, sometimes cried, and sometimes fell down to touch the lotus feet of the Lord. Verse 209. Dekhi Gopinathacharya Harshita Mana Bhattacharya Nritya Dekhi Hase Prabhur Gana. While Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya was in this ecstasy, Gopinathacharya was very pleased. The associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all laughed to see Bhattacharya dance so. Verse 210. Gopinathacharya kahe Mahaprabhu Raprati se Bhattacharya Prabhu kaile e gati. Gopinath Acharya told Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sir, you have brought all this upon Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya. Verse 211. Prabhu kahe tumi bhakta tumar sanga haite Jagannath inhare kripa kaila bhala bhal mate. Sri Mahaprabhu replied, You are a devotee because of your association. Lord Jagannath has shown him mercy. Verse 212. Tabe Bhattacharya Prabhu susthira karila sthira hena Bhattacharya bahustuti kaila. After this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pacified the Bhattacharya, and then, when it was inquired, he offered many prayers to the Lord. Verse 213. Jagat nistarile tumi seh alpakarya ama udharile tumi eshakri ascharya. Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya said, My dear sir, you have delivered this entire world, but that is not the very great task. However, you have also delivered me, and that is certainly the work of very wonderful powers. Verse 214. Tarka Shastre Jada Ami Yaiche Loha Pinda Am Dravele Tumi Pratapa Prachanda. I had become full-headed due to reading too many books on logic. Consequently, I had become like an iron bar. Nonetheless, you have melted me, and therefore your influence is very great. Verse 215. Stuti Shuni Mahaprabhu Nijavas Vasa Aila Bhattacharya Acharya Dware Bhiksha Karaila. After hearing the prayers offered by Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to his residence, and the Bhaṭṭācārya through Gopinath Acharya induced the Lord to accept lunch. Verse 216, Aradina Prabhu Gela Jagannath Darshane, Darshan Karila Jagannath Shayuthane. Early the following morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Lord Jagannath in the temple, and he saw the Lord rise from his bed. Verse 217, Pujari Aniya Mala Prasadan Dila Prasadan Mala Pana Prabhu Harsha Haila. The priest there presented him with garlands and prasadam that had been offered to Lord Jagannath. This pleased Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very much. Verse 218, A prasadan mala anchale bandhiya Bhaṭṭācārya ghare aila twarayukta hena. Carefully tying the prasadam and garlands in a cloth, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hastened to the house of Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya. Verse 219, Arunoday Kale Haila Prabhur Agamana Sai Kale Bhaṭṭācārya Haila Chakrana. He arrived at the Bhaṭṭācārya's house a little before sunrise, just when the Bhaṭṭācārya was arising from bed. Verse 220, Krishna Krishna Svuta Kahi Bhaṭṭācārya Jagila Krishna Naam Shuni Prabhura Anand Badila. As Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya arose from bed, he distinctly chanted Krishna Krishna. Lord Chaitanya was very pleased to hear him chant the holy names of Krishna. Verse 221, Bahire Prabhur Tenho Paila Darshana Aste Vyaste Asi Kaila Charan Vandana. The Bhaṭṭācārya noticed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu outside, and with great haste he went to him and offered prayers unto his lotus feet. Verse 222, Vasite asana diya dunheta vasila prasadan khuli prabhu tanra hate dila. The Bhaṭṭācārya offered a carpet for the Lord to sit upon, and both of them sat there. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened the prasadam and placed it in the hands of Bhaṭṭācārya. Verse 223, Prasadan Pana Bhaṭṭācārya Ananda Haila Snana Sandhya Dant Dhavan Yadyapi Na Kaila. At the time, the Bhaṭṭācārya had not even washed his mouth, nor had he taken his bath or finished his morning duties. Nonetheless, he was very pleased to receive the prasadam of Lord Jagannath. Verse 224, Chaitanya Prasade Manera Sab Jadaya Gela Eish Loka Padi Anna Bhakshana Karila. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the dullness in the mind of Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya was eradicated. After reciting the following two verses, he ate the prasadam offered to him. Verse 225, Shushkam Paryushitam Vapi Nitam Vadura Deshataha Prapti Matrena Bhoktavyam Natra Kala Vicharana. The Bhaṭṭācārya said, one should eat the Mahaprasadam of the Lord immediately upon receiving it, even though it is dried up, stale or brought from the distant country. One should consider neither time nor place. Verse 226, Nadesha Niyamastatra Nakala Niyamastatha Praptam Annam Drutam Shishtair Bhoktavyam Harir Abravit. The prasadam of Lord Krishna is to be eaten by the gentleman as soon as it is received. Therefore, there should be no hesitation. There are no regulative principles concerning time and place. This is the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport: these verses are quoted from the Padma Puran, verse 227. Dekhi Anandit Haila Mahaprabhura Mana Prema Vishta Hena Prabhu Kaila Alingana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very pleased to see this. He became ecstatic in love of Godhead and embraced Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya. Verse 228, Dui Jane Dhari Dunhe karena nartana Prabhu Bhritya Dunha Sparshe Dunhar Thule Mana. The Lord and the servant embraced each other and began to dance. Simply by touching each other, they became ecstatic. Verse 2 to 9. Sweda Kampa Ashru Dunhe Anande Bhasila Prema Vishta Hena Prabhu Kahite Lagila. As they danced and embraced, spiritual symptoms manifested in their bodies. They perspired, trembled, and shed tears, and the Lord began to speak in his ecstasy. Verse 230. Aji Muni Anayase Jininu Tribhuvana Aji Muni Karinu Vaikuntha Arohana. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, today I have conquered the three worlds very easily. Today I have ascended to the spiritual world. The goal of the human perfection is stated here in brief. One has to surpass all the planetary systems of the material universe, pierce through the covering of the universe, and reach the spiritual world known as the Vaikuntha Lok. The Vaikuntha Lokas are variegated spiritual planets situated in the Lord's impersonal bodily effulgence known as Brahmajyoti. One may aspire to elevate himself to a heavenly planet within the material world, such as the moon, the sun, or the Venus. But if one is spiritually advanced in Krishna consciousness, he does not want to remain within the material universe, even in a higher planetary system. Rather, he prefers to penetrate the covering of the universe and attain the spiritual world. He can then be situated in one of the Vaikuntha planets there. However, the devotees, under the guidance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, aspire to reach the topmost spiritual planet known as Golok Vrindavan, the residence of Lord Krishna and his eternal associates. Verse 231. Aji Mora Purna Haila Sarva Abhilash Sārvabhauma Haila Mahaprasade Vishwas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, I think that today all my desires have been fulfilled because I see that Sārvabhauma Bhaṭṭācārya has acquired faith in the Mahaprasadam of Lord Jagannath. Verse 232. Aji Tumi Nishkapate Haila Krishna Shraya Krishna Aji Nishkapate Toma Haila Sadaya. Indeed, today you have undoubtedly taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord of Krishna, and Krishna without reservations has become very merciful toward you. Verse 233. Aji se khandila tumar dehadi bandhana Aji tumi chinna kaile mayar bandhan. My dear Bhaṭṭācārya, today you have been released from the material bondage in the bodily conception of life. You have cut to pieces the shackles of the illusory energy. Verse 234. Aji Krishna prapti yogya haila tumar mana veda dharam langhi kaile prasad bhakshana. Today your mind has also become fit to take shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, because surpassing the Vedic regulative principles, you have eaten the remnants of food offered to Lord. Verse 235. Okay, we will continue from verse 235 next time. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami ki jai.